Hello and welcome to Lazerball Devlog number 3. Is it number 3 or is it number 2? Number 3. This week I took a step back and re-evaluated my game. I wasn't really enjoying playing the game anymore and I've been trying to figure out why. Maybe it's because I've been playing it non-stop against myself and a static player. But it's probably a load of other factors too. So I took a look at my first prototype that I made a few months back. This first make of the game using free art from the Unity asset store and very little polish felt fun and cool. And I think maybe I've been refining to the point where the game's just become static and it's lost that initial creative spark. One of the things I found fun but later adjusted out of existence was the camera follow mechanic. The camera would zoom around after the player and zoom in and out depending on the distance. And it felt super cool when the ball would fly off and the camera would zoom out to watch it go. I remember getting rid of this mechanic because I felt, without any playtesting, that the players would probably think it's nauseating to zoom in and out and zoom all around. So I got rid of the mechanic without really playtesting it or trying out, but I decided to give it another chance. Even though I'd had a camera follow previously, my code was such a mess and a confusing amalgamation of like 3 or 4 different tutorials and blog posts all mashed together to make it work when I first did it. So I scrapped that and started fresh. Brushed up quickly with a Brackeys tutorial on how to do camera follow. And since I'm using Cinemachine rather than Unity's inbuilt camera system, I just adjusted a few things. So for anyone who's trying to do this with Cinemachine themselves, here's a quick rundown. I created an empty game object and set my Cinemachine virtual camera to follow it. Then I created a camera follow script to attach to that object, which deals with all movement and etc., which you can find in Brackeys tutorial. I'll link it down below. Then instead of adjusting the field of view, as the tutorial says, I just adjusted the Cinemachine orthographic size. So by referring to the Cinemachine virtual camera, in this case cam, I wrote cam.m_lens.orthographic size, and that was how I did the zoom. So the camera basically picks out the players and the ball, and basically picks out the center point and always follows the center point between all the objects. The closer they are together, the smaller the box is, and the further in the camera zooms, and obviously the further out they are, the further out it zooms. A dynamic camera wouldn't really be as cool if the stages weren't big enough to obviously move around in. So I went and repainted one of the stages to try it out at the floating rock stage. Whilst painting, I also used more painterly and clean art style, which I really loved, and in comparison to the previous slightly more photo texture detailed style, it felt a lot more close to what I was looking for, and it gelled a lot more nicely with the character designs. So I set about repainting all the platforms. I also took this opportunity to paint normal maps. So a normal map basically is a way for the engine to understand how lighting affects a texture. So the darker the normal map is in a section, the less light gets to it. The lighter it is, the more light gets to that section. And it basically creates depth without having to actively put that in the 3D mesh. I've created normal maps before in 3D, but I never thought about the possibility in 2D. But alas, Unity's 2D render pipeline has the ability to implement this, which is great because it provides a subtle but effective way to breathe life into your artwork through lighting. In the original test version of the game, you could continually press jump to make small adjustments in the air, which, although clunky and tricky to get a hang of, it meant I ended up being where I wanted to be to catch the ball in its flight. Currently it's tough to do that and I often find myself just missing the ball altogether. I don't want players to just spam the jump button so that it can float indefinitely, but I also want players to be able to have that ability to have more control about where they want to be, to adjust their trajectory so that they're in the right position to catch the ball. So I came up with the idea of floating. By pressing the float button, your character stops mid-flight and propels a tiny bit upwards, holding that position for a short period of time. This gives players a lot more control as they can now get to a precise position fast, then hold it just in time to intercept the ball mid-flight. And so, after a week of small adjustments, the game is already feeling a lot better to play. If you want to be a part of playtesting, let me know. And if enough people are available, Maybe we can start a Discord server or something and get the ball rolling. And that's it for now. So like the video, share it with someone. I'd really appreciate that support, and yeah, thanks a lot. Have a nice day.